Hey guys, it's Tom Shue, and today we're going to be doing another episode of Photoshop for Lightroom users. And in this particular tutorial, we're going to talk about non-destructive workflows and working with adjustment layers. Okay, so the way this works, if you zoom in, you can see that we have pixels. Each one of those square represents a pixel. And the idea is you want to work non-destructively, which means that you don't destroy any of those pixels. You maintain the integrity of your original file, and you add to it and create whatever kind of adjustments you want to fix your image. You can see this is a little underexposed. So I'm going to give you an example of destructive workflow. Say, for example, we painted on this image. You can see that we're on the same layer as our background layer. Even though it's locked, okay, it still let me do something that destroyed the pixels. Now we zoom in, you can see they're white instead of the black. Good thing there's undo. You can do edit, undo, or step backwards, okay, and get rid of that. So you can destroy the pixels if you're not careful. Some people will tell you to duplicate the background layer, and I do that sometimes. You hit Control J or Command J, and you work on this particular file layer, and then if something happens, you can just delete that layer and you have your original layer. Let's do that again. Control J. Look what happens to the file size. It doubles every time you add another layer. Actually, it doesn't double it. It doubles the first time, and this time it will be a third bigger and then a quarter bigger. Okay, so you can see that quickly we went from 91 to 365 megs. That's a huge file. Let's get rid of that. So we're back down to our background layer. So you want to work where you don't destroy the original pixels, but you want to correct your images and make your adjustments that you need. So for example, this one is underexposed. We're going to add some exposure adjustments. So if you come down here to the circle with the half-dipped cookie, looks like, you can see we have adjustment layers here. And if we grab our exposure adjustment and we grab exposure and slide it up, we can see that we've corrected the exposure on the car, but we didn't do anything to the original layer. We can turn it on and off with the eye tool. As a matter of fact, what we could do is use a layer mask with our brush tool, and we could paint in black the opposite of the white, and we could come in and we could reclaim the exposure on the ground and in this background right here, and just increase the exposure on the car. Okay, let me X and pull a little bit off this wheel, and now you can see the before and after. So we've non-destructively made an adjustment to our car. Let's delete that. Another set of adjustments you could do, however, these are destructive, so you got to be careful. You go image adjustments, and we do exposure. It's the same adjustment. So if we bring up exposure, we click OK, but it's applying it to that layer. And there's no mask. So if we want to do something, we put a mask on it. Now we could go in and make our changes. We paint in black, but there's nothing underneath to mask. Okay? Do you see? It's just going to give us a transparent layer. So you have to be careful what you do, and don't destroy your original layers. Keep those intact and work non-destructively. So you can do any kind of adjustments with adjustment layers. So let's do one of my favorite ways to work would be a couple curves layers. Okay, so we'll create another layer which would be curves. This one here I would probably pull up my shadows a little bit and pull down the highlights. Alright, and on this one I would do a color adjustment, maybe warm up the image a little bit. So we'll come in here to this blue and maybe pull down, and that would warm it up. We're going to be adding some yellow, which is opposite of the blue. I can just put it in the shadows, maybe pull back up here. And there we have a color adjustment, and we have an exposure adjustment. All non-destructively. We still have our original file intact. So that's it. Think work non-destructively and use adjustment layers to manipulate your files. I want to thank you all for taking time to visit today, and until next time, we'll see you soon.